Andy was stopping at a red light to make a U-turn after missing his exit when he noticed a red Model 3 pulling up next to him and a white Model 3 stopping behind it. Just as Andy glanced over at the driver of the red Tesla, he felt a large impact as his Tesla was shoved into it. The driver of a Kia Soul ran a red light, crashing into a Prius before striking Andy's Model 3. It then hit the red Tesla, so only one Tesla at that intersection escaped unscathed. The drivers all got out to assess the damage. They were all okay except for Andy, who began to experience neck pain. All the cars were also still drivable, except for Andy's, which had to be towed. The story only gets worse from here. Andy and the other Tesla driver both have the same insurance provider, but the Kia driver only had $25,000 in coverage. And Andy was worried that might not be enough to pay the combined repair costs. He was concerned he might have to file a claim with his own insurance provider to cover the difference. Thankfully, the other driver's insurance provider informed him that there shouldn't be any problem as the initial repair estimate came to only $8,000. All good, right? Later that night, Andy got a phone notification that Sentry mode had been activated. Look what he discovered when he opened the live view. The body shop was lifting his car with a forklift. At first he was horrified, but then he saw that the forklift had some sort of wheel lift apparatus on it. He turned his phone back off and forgot about it. The next day, he went to the shop to retrieve his belongings from his car and he discovered new damage to the bumper cover. Damage that is not visible in the picture he took at the collision scene. Andy doesn't know for sure where the damage came from, but one way or another, the car had been involved in a second collision. Andy feared the initial estimate of $8,000 would soon be updated to a much higher number, and he wasn't wrong. The updated estimate shot up to $39,000. Andy had to file a claim through his own insurance provider after all, and they declared the car a total loss. Just to add insult to injury, Andy was rear-ended just 5 days later while driving his other car, which made his neck pain much worse. Andy has hired an attorney and is hoping to receive compensation for his mounting medical bills. He can't help but think that if he hadn't missed his exit, none of this would have happened. Dax was stuck in stop-and-go traffic on his way home from work when a car slammed into him without even slowing down. Dax's Tesla was shoved into the vehicle ahead of him, and they rolled into the vehicle in front of them, making this a 4-vehicle collision. A state trooper responded to the scene, and the guy who'd run into Dax was found completely responsible. Dax was able to drive the car home, but it was picked up and taken to a body shop the next day after he filed an insurance claim. Since the Tesla's battery hadn't been damaged, the insurance company decided to repair the car. It took $27,000 and 3 months before Dax got it back. Jacob was heading out to dinner with his wife and 2 kids in the car when they encountered a GMC truck driving very slowly and swerving around. Jacob decided to pass the truck, but right as he did, the truck moved left, nearly ramming Jacob's Tesla off the road. Jacob's family screamed in fear, but Jacob managed to keep the car under control. Once he was in front of the truck, he decided to confront the other driver and began slowing down. His wife asked him to just let it go, so he floored the juice pedal and took off. After all, he had no idea what the other driver's mental or emotional states were like. Jacob thinks he could have very well been drunk, a Tesla hater, or both. He gives credit to his wife for advising him against a confrontation. ZR was driving his Model Y down a highway outside of Boston, Massachusetts when a life jacket flew out of a canoe mounted to the roof rack of the car in front of him. Evidently, the life jacket was attached with a string. When ZR figured out what was happening, he tried to get the driver's attention by honking and flashing his lights. This only caused the other driver to accelerate. The life jacket was dragged for almost half a mile on I-95, jet skiing across 2 lanes of the highway and impeding traffic in the process. Other drivers also started to flash their headlights in an attempt to get the driver's attention. The life jacket eventually got stuck in the guardrail and the string snapped, finally allowing ZR to safely approach the vehicle. When he caught up to the driver to tell them what had happened, they had no idea anything was wrong. ZR explained the whole ordeal, but he has no idea if they ever recovered the life jacket. Daniel was on his way home when he noticed a strange-looking Tesla ahead of him. The first thing he noticed was the Model M badge and logo on the back of the car, and he figured maybe the owner's name began with the letter M. Then he noticed the lights weren't quite right. Wait a second, that's not a Tesla! Daniel merged right to pass the car and get a better look, and that's when he discovered it was actually a Mazda. This is groundbreaking news that Daniel discovered. Evidently, Tesla and Mazda are collaborating on a new model together that's a Mazda in the front and a Tesla in the back. You heard it here first, everybody. Lee was sitting at a red light in Auburn, Washington when a Harley driver was splitting between the lanes to get ahead of traffic. According to RCW 46.61.608, lane splitting is illegal in the state of Washington, which the Harley rider would soon find out the hard way. As they entered the highway, the Harley rider continued splitting lanes and even split across the median. And that's when the boys in blue decided to intervene. A police officer lit up his party lights and hopped out to have a word with the Harley rider. Lee told us it was nice to see some instant justice. Adrian was using the full self-driving beta on his way to buy comic books when he felt a bump from behind. Evidently, FSD didn't notice the impact and kept driving, so he had to manually disengage it to pull over. The driver who'd hit Adrian told him she was delivering food to a party. She turned around to check on the food while continuing to drive forward. Adrian told us he thinks that's even worse than looking down at your phone. Here's an idea: pay attention to the road ahead of you. Two cars merged in front of Jerry while on his way to work. As the on-ramp lane ended, a semi-truck unexpectedly pulled onto the highway from the shoulder without ensuring traffic was clear. The cars ahead of Jerry were forced to brake, but the Honda did what Hondas do. Jerry immediately pulled over and saved his Teslacam footage. The Honda never pulled over and ended up leaving the scene. Jerry exchanged information with the Toyota driver and provided him with a copy of his Teslacam footage. Kyle was on his way to church one Sunday morning down a highway in Kalamazoo, Michigan, when he was passed and cut off by a Jeep he'd had no previous interactions with. The Jeep driver then waited for Kyle up ahead. Kyle made a number of attempts to get away from the Jeep, including slowing way down and trying to pass. But the driver cut him off and then brake checked him. The Jeep driver even passed him on the shoulder at highway speeds just to stay in Kyle's way and recklessly harass him. Kyle told us he made every attempt to evade the Jeep until he began to consider taking an early exit, even though he was still miles from his destination. Thankfully, that's when the Jeep driver took the exit instead, and Kyle wasn't sorry to see him leave. We have to say, the new Teslacams are so crisp. They make reading license plates so much easier, and that allowed Kyle to notice something very interesting. The Jeep had local Kalamazoo dealer plates. So Kyle sent this video to the dealer the plates were from and asked if this sort of behavior from their employees is acceptable. Kyle never heard back from the dealer, and he's left wondering what this driver ever had against him. Rachel was passed by a speeding Nissan Versa, then a Honda Fit came chasing after it. The Fit then cut in front of and brake checked the Nissan. The Nissan then started tailgating the Honda Fit. The Fit again brake checked the Nissan, then they continued chasing each other for a while. After that, it's hard to tell what happened. It looks like the Nissan brake checked the Honda. The Honda driver swerved, overcorrected, and wiped out. The driver of the Nissan didn't stop. Rachel stopped as soon as she could to render aid and save her Teslacam footage. The driver of the Honda Fit was a very pregnant young woman. She wasn't hurt and refused a trip to the hospital. She claimed the driver of the Nissan had been following her after she'd mistakenly cut in front of them in traffic. And this cat and mouse game had apparently been going on for miles before they'd passed Rachel. Rachel showed her Teslacam footage to the police and gave them her statement. The Honda driver also provided a picture of the Nissan's license plate and a picture she'd taken of the driver. Traffic was backed up down a highway and side streets, so Cameron, and everyone else, was stuck. Suddenly, the impatient driver of a white truck decided to drive into oncoming lanes. Little did they know, a cop was right behind them, ready to serve up some instant justice. Thwara was taking his sister to college. The full self-driving beta was enabled, and Thwara noticed a red Model 3 in the rearview mirror. Thwara has seen very few Teslas in his area, and he thought it looked very nice. But he was about to have an encounter with the driver that was not so nice. While still using FSD, they needed to take a left turn onto a fairly tight road. There was a car in front of them, and Thwara couldn't see very well if there was any oncoming traffic. Evidently, the Tesla was having a hard time seeing as well because it suddenly braked hard before making a seemingly random maneuver. It began backing up. Thwara hit the brakes as soon as he felt the car reversing, and he thinks his reflexes saved him from a major headache, because the Model 3 was just inches away. The Model 3 owner became infuriated and chased him down after he'd turned before briefly cursing at him and taking off. Thwara kept his cool and went on with his day. He's just glad that he always pays attention while using the FSD beta, just like Tesla says to. Maybe the Model 3 owner will see this video and realize what had happened. Dave was driving down I-75 when he witnessed the driver of an Amazon semi-truck change lanes without checking for other traffic. Thankfully, the other driver reacted quickly, darting into the other lane to avoid a collision. Nice save. Dave was headed down a highway on-ramp, and we'll speed up this part just so you can see this ramp is definitely one way. Just as Dave was about to merge onto the highway, he encountered a wrong-way driver. He honked, but the other driver just honked back. Dave told us he was on his way to a Mensa meeting, and he asked if this was dumb. Maybe I'm dumb, but I'm not sure what he means exactly. Is he asking if going to a Mensa meeting is dumb? I'm pretty sure you have to be at least a little smart to even get into those things. He must be asking if it was dumb for him to honk. If that's the case, I think we all agree that the other driver deserved to be honked at. Nicole was stuck in miles of bumper-to-bumper traffic on Alligator Alley, a 2-lane highway that passes through the Everglades. She was expecting to discover a huge collision, but to her surprise, there was an alligator blocking one of the lanes, basking in the sun. Come on, Nicole, were you really that surprised? It's called Alligator Alley for a reason. A state trooper tried to scare the gator a few times using his siren, but he wasn't going anywhere. Alex and his son Alder were driving back from work when they got stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic before hearing some faint noises up ahead. In the middle of the median was a guy jamming away on a drum set, rocking out while everybody else was stuck in traffic. Either this guy really wanted to brighten up everyone's commute home from work, or his family was so sick of him drumming at home that he had to find somewhere else to play. Harry was driving his 3-week-old Tesla Model Y down a highway in California when he was suddenly Honda bumped. Wait a second, that wasn't a Honda, that was another Tesla. What in the world is happening? The other Tesla driver wanted to merge, but she didn't see that traffic was stopped ahead before she rear-ended Harry. I think we can safely assume autopilot was not engaged. It cost $2,000 to repair Harry's Tesla, and he got it back 2 weeks later. Michael was driving in Colorado when the driver of a Ram 2500 tried to turn left across 3 lanes of traffic. Michael was in the middle lane and he was able to stop to avoid a collision. Sadly, there was a car in the next lane that hit the truck head-on, and Michael's car became collateral damage when the car ricocheted into his Tesla. Michael had just bought the Tesla only 30 days prior. The police arrived and Michael showed them his Teslacam footage. They found the Ram driver entirely at fault for the collision. Alan was driving northbound on Lakeshore Drive when a blue Toyota Camry suddenly came drifting out in front of a truck and hit the wall. The truck then also lost traction, and the trailer nearly took Alan out. It turned out there was oil on the road from a previous collision. And up ahead, 3 more drivers had stopped after being victims of the same wall. This emitter was sitting at a red light when he watched a truck driver roll coal on a Tesla Model 3. Well, that seems unnecessary. With so many haters to deal with, why would anybody want a Tesla? Why, for the built-in cameras, of course.
Wham, bam, Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.